Jangchub Central of Rinpoche, Pachung Rinpoche, Rinpoche,
So yesterday we were talking about love, loving kindness, and so today we will be focusing on compassion now, cultivation of compassion, how to meditate and cultivate this. So now when we talk about loving kindness, primarily what we are cultivating is really just the longing for beings to be happy, to have happiness. But we also understand that so long as beings are not free from suffering, there really can be no happiness because the suffering has to be first removed. And so this is where compassion comes in. Compassion is the desire to free the sentient beings from suffering. And so that is the main motivation here, is for beings to become free from suffering. So now the way that we meditate on compassion, again, as in with the case of loving kindness, if you can, you start with your own mother of this life in the visualization. And in this case, what you think of is basically the whole point, first of all, of loving kindness and compassion is so that one's own grasping, self-clinging or ego-clinging, this tendency to cherish the self above all else, that should be weakening and lessening. That should be getting smaller. Because the stronger our ego clinging, then this prevents us from being free from samsara. So therefore, that is why when we cultivate loving kindness and compassion, it should be decreasing our ego clinging, our self-grasping. So now here, the second, as it says here in the text, second, meditating on compassion. So here, we meditate on our own mother of this life, if we can. And imagine if you actually saw your mother of this life with basically at the point in which her arms and her legs and her head are going to be severed. And look at her in this destitute state. Or, for example, you can imagine your mother being placed in like a vat of boiling water. Or, for example, like thrown into a fire and burned alive. I mean, what would you do if your own mother of this life is suffering in such an extreme situation? And when you think about this, you imagine your mother in this kind of a state, then helplessly, like automatically, compassion arises. And when you see this, if you see your mother in such a state, then you would feel helplessly, you would feel compassion. So then you have to ask yourself, is your mother deserving of protection, of being rescued, or not? And of course the answer is yes, obviously you should. You should protect your mother, you should help her. And we should think in this way because we remember how kind our mother has been to us and the great kindness she has shown us. So now, when she is in such a helpless situation, if we do not help her, then not only would this break our mother's heart, but for ourselves, we could not possibly go on and be happy knowing that we just left our mother to suffer in such a terrible condition after everything she's done for us and then just going on. So thinking in this way, we kind of cultivate this resolve that of course we must help our mother, we must relieve her of this situation, this suffering. And so then when we think in this way, think of all the sentient beings that are actually right now in the hell realms, like the hell of intense burning, the hot hells. And remember that there is not a single being in these hells that has not in previous lives been your own kind mother. And at the time that each of these hell beings was your mother, they showed us or you the greatest kindness. And for example, even to the extent that they have some hot food and they even take the time to blow the food and cool it down and then feed the child just to make sure the child doesn't even burn its mouth. And that is like an example of how much love and care and kindness that our mothers have shown us. But now these mothers are suffering unbearably in the hell realm. So of course, thinking in this way brings this desire to free them from suffering. So now, if you think of the intense suffering of the hells and how the minions or the kind of the hell minions, the workers in the hell realms are like in the state of torturing these hell beings. For example, making them like pulling off the skin from the body and boiling them in molten magma or molten lava. And then how like every bit of ground is the nature of like burning metal. And just thinking of the intensity of the suffering, the sheer suffering that they experience, when we think in this way, compassion arises automatically, like helplessly. We cannot help but to have compassion. And so this is how we should contemplate. This is how we should reflect. And also think of suffering not only in terms of it suffering as an as it appears, but suffering as a cause, like the cause and the effect of suffering, which means, for example, Milarepa said, anger is what leads to rebirth in the hell realms, anger and hatred. And so anger and hatred is actually a cause of suffering. So anger and hatred is future suffering, and then suffering itself is the result of a cause. So think of suffering both in terms of its manifest appearance as suffering as a result, and then its cause, like how beings are producing the causes of suffering. So think of that, the cause and the effect of suffering. And so this is how we meditate on the compassion.
昨天我们讲到爱慈心，那今天我们会继续讲悲心。慈心呢，主要就是那种内心的渴望，我们渴求众生能够得乐，但是只要众生不离开苦的话，他们是没有办法真正得到快乐的。是因此之故，我们要希望他们能够远离痛苦。那么就像慈心的修习一样，我们在修悲心的时候，也是从自己的母亲开始。我们要长养我们的慈心跟悲心，主要是要去执着，去掉我执，让我执能够越来越小。那么如果说我执很强的话，当然我们就继续在轮回里面 受生。所以第二步呢，就是我们如何来禅修悲心。如果我们今天来假想自己的母亲，如果说手或者是脚将要被砍的话，或者是她将要被推入沸腾的水里面，或者是将要被大火烧到的话，我们这样一想象，我们心里会做什么样的，会有什么样的感受呢？是不是自然而然无所选择的就会产生悲心，想要让我们自己的母亲远离痛苦呢？我相信一般人是的。那如果说我们在意念他们过去是如何对我们的慈爱，那我们又怎么可能不去帮他呢？那这个就是让我们长养我们这个悲心的一个方式。当我们内心这样想的时候，我们或而想到所有的众生在地狱的锅里面，铁锅上面将被煮。那在过去他们如何的慈爱我们，照顾我们，即使像一个对待一个小 baby 一样，要让他吃热的东西的时候，母亲通常会把食物吹一吹，让它变凉一点，再来喂这个小 baby 的，是如此细心的来照顾我们。那今天想到在地狱里面的众生将要被剥皮，或要被推入热的熔浆里面，那么我们心里自然而然会产生悲心。那我们可以以如此的方法来做关照，这是一个层面。另外一个层面，我们也要去关照造成痛苦的原因在哪里。弥勒日巴祖师曾说，嗔心跟怨恨是造成受生地狱的因，所以我们要从这边来了解，愤怒也就是嗔心跟怨恨呢是这个因，这个是造成痛苦的因，所以我们也可以从这个层次来了解什么是痛苦的因，什么是痛苦的果，如何来避免这个痛苦。
So again, think of your own mother of this life and imagine that she was forced to be, like she was sent off without any clothes on her back in a freezing tundra, in a freezing, like a frozen, icy realm with a freezing cold wind, like sweeping around her, and with no clothes on her back and helplessly experiencing such intense cold and freezing that her own body like starts to blister from the cold, and then the blisters crack open, and then her entire body starts to crack as though it was like mushrooming and cracking open. And imagine that all of this suffering she's experiencing, helplessly you would feel this incredible compassion for your mother. Now think that there are actually sentient beings who are experiencing this in the realms of the cold hells, and that there is not one of these beings who has not been your mother before. And when these beings were your mother, they would not even take the time, they would not even let you feel cold. If it was cold outside, they would make sure to cover you in layers upon layers of warm clothes. And so now these mothers are experiencing tremendous suffering from freezing in these hell realm experiences. So when we think in that way, then when we know the suffering they're undergoing, helplessly, again, compassion arises and the desire to free them from this suffering.
再来，我们想象这一世的母亲，如果他们衣服被剥光，没有任何遮蔽，保暖的东西，被丢到一个冰冷冰冻的地方，冷风嗖嗖，身体上慢慢产生冻疮，甚至破裂，像香菇一样这样爆裂出来，那我们的心里是作何感受？那在地狱里面众生的苦，在地狱里面的众生也如同这样一般。这些众生过去无一不是我母，在意念自己小的时候，在寒冷的天气，母亲为了保护我们不受寒，而帮我们加上一层一层的衣服、毯子等等。今天看到母亲这样子的受苦，我们内心会有什么感受？是不是不由自主的会想要去保护她，让她离开那个地方？
那样在这广播里中吧，当马他那这样没呢，多的就恰天那里去度样里的，你把它开始怎么干部下，土老同样的吧，我在新竹如果就我是把下属的，希腊是就恰的，上这个你这这种你这这，我这是怎么当呢？飞行的，那一大几个时间的时候，让去你嘛。几个有嘛类似，那嘛几个呢？当然，但是不在这块弄啊弄回上，在这个弄啊有啦，弄回上呢，上海也有点生意，可拉新的新生意呢，我这有几个在家里向类似，我这在一大弄啊，刚才就是去，有这几年没见，有嘛类似，我这有，我这但是一大今天时间。像不管从哪里来，慢慢就有嘛类上，这个把东西把吃完，都给这样，你就没类送了。
Also, the instructions say to meditate in this way. Imagine your own mother was deprived of food and suffered from such intense hunger, starvation in fact, that her body became weak and emaciated, and she didn't even have water to drink. No food, no water for a long time, and her body became like completely impoverished and emaciated. She didn't even have clothes to wear. She was in such a destitute state, and helplessly you would have compassion for her. But now think of all the beings in the Preta realm, or the hungry ghost realm, and remember that there is not one of these beings who in fact isn't your mother, because they have been your mother in previous lives. And so when these beings were your mother, then they were careful not to ever let you go hungry. In fact, they were always feeding you the best and the most delicious food that they could find. And they would take care of you in this way. And now they are suffering this intense phenomenon of hunger and thirst, starvation. And so thinking in this way, again, helplessly, the desire to free them from this suffering arises, this compassion arises helplessly. When you remember that samsara is without beginning, and from beginningless time in samsara until now, all of these beings have been your own mother, and now seeing them in suffering is unbearable. Again, this compassion arises and the desire to free them from this state.
接下来对于禅修的指示有另外一种方式。我们接下来想，自己的母亲非常的饿，没有任何的食物，不但没有食物，连饮水都没有。这样子很久之后，她身体非常的虚弱、软弱无力，那么完全在一个非常饥饿无助的状态之下，那我们心里会不想去帮助她吗？在或大想到在恶鬼道的众生，在过去无一不是我母，那我们不去帮他们吗？在自己小的时候，我们自己的母亲想尽办法不让我们挨饿，一直来喂食我们吃种种不同的东西，营养的东西。那再想到这里，我们是不是不由自主的会想要去帮这些自己的母亲以及这些众生呢？因为自无始以来，无一不是我的母亲，无一不想尽办法保护我们，让我们不受饥饿。
这让这样嘛，这现在的时代的那一些这样的 过去的药呢，那个过去的那种，然后新疆那个家是这样，都是经批呢，然后那个提，我这做起来的，我这就今年就下情况有关，我这里那你就是说呢，那你这个意思，我这都了解的嘛，就是完了。因上的呢，嘛这个嘛人家打头，这个有的是的，嘛你就然后你嘛的，过去的讲呢，嘛就开始呢，朗读什么点有的是，我这朗读看下去，我是现在有些嘛我下的是，我这呢，在今年5月上投入这个事情，今年5月中啊，我让嘛起码有嘛的事情投入这个事情。
Now imagine that your own mother is suddenly forced into servitude and forced into being like a slave and doing all of the hard work and the labor for someone, and or imagine that your mother is being chased by predators in a terrifying wilderness where she has no protection. Imagine your mother is in a state like the state of these animal realm beings. Compassion would arise naturally if you actually saw your mother experiencing what the animals experience. And then remember that all of these mother sentient beings who are now in the animal realm, that they are in fact your own mother, because there is not a single one of them that has never been your mother in a previous life. And so now seeing them in such a sort of horrible, helpless state as they are, remember that there was a time before when they were your mothers, and at that time they showed you right from wrong, they showed you what to adopt and what to reject. But now they are in a state where they themselves are now ignorant and unable to even differentiate or distinguish between what to adopt and what to reject, because they have been born in the ignorant state of animals. And so in this way, again, arise compassion for these beings.
接下来再想象自己的母亲不由自主地被奴役、被逼迫、被追逐，心生非常的恐惧，就好像在畜生道的动物一样。那么在扩而大之，想到在畜生道的众生过去世无一不是我的母亲。在我们小的时候，他们教导我们是非对错的观念。而今天他们堕在无明的畜生道，不知道什么是对，什么是错，如何来思辨？这样子回想起来，我们是不是不由自主的会对他们升起悲心呢？
真的，然后给嘛这给我查内容，这样呢有这样没？我的年龄最大药呢，做什么把抽药，忙抽药，那哪咋的都嘛是东西去，对，现年收东西，这个东嘛是凶啊，这里希腊可能今年吧，希腊可能是这个世界在帮助的，这里去呢，说出来吧，你的这个也是你的这个，真的，我这阶段真的可能什么都是大的没老说，我大概是马起有的事情嘛，我们呢东南的马基是有的种多，我是我东南马基，我这几趟去呢，我东南就最我那里的种的。就我那有的人是，我那没的人是，有没头绪的嘛？有种人，我看有种，这种多人的嘛，有的也是，这个真的电信来用嘛，这马上东西是，对那这主要说呢，按这个是说嘛说呢，这些，我这那吧，其他他有的，基金有嘛也是，我这地上。7个月是的，好长时间了，讲公众的，下土公司的180，我这年这个这种，我这样呢，他们也呢，他做跟我有这种，可是呢，另外因素的跟我写的是，另外因素，另外因素是这里，他们也就是他说他们他说其实跟我写的这种，我这里跟我有这什么，我这人他认为呢，那个对吧？这个原因呢。这个车子嘛，说了起，我这7、8个月东啊是来红绿，这个我这个上面东啊，东啊7个月是，可是呢， 可能自己话你嘛的今年通过期，我今年通过期的率真就话起码可能当你们给我说嘛说今年起码起码运送解决率是看大解决都可能通的可能，你晓得有人没，但没落忙过是吧？这东西用出来的，我他可能下对是的，没被忙过的，我真是这东西用出来，第一，那么这东西可能你们今年通过期的，运送这样的，我这东西会干，所有出来的东西有类似，我是说，我这都怎么讲？你类似，那多对你那是时间长，先不说什么，对吧？当他们那几个嘛，